Well, the model is actually pretty good. The only thing I don't like is that the panel lines are so pronounced. I've had the chance to see the original model that was used for filming the first series, and it wasn't like this. The panel lines weren't so pronounced. Why would they have made the panel lines stand out so much? Well, it's probably to make the model look a bit more spectacular. So the job should be to smooth all of this out, apply some putty. And, well, sand everything down and redo the lines, but not so deeply, they're just too much. This takes away some of the realism from the model, especially since it's a small-scale model and it looks odd. This should be, or almost should be, completely smooth. And here we can see original photos from the restoration, where it's clear that the panel lines aren't very deep at all, they're almost imperceptible. We can also see that there's a green color, a sienna earth color, and we can see how the green color, this is the cracking of the original paint, follows some elongated streaks from the bow to the stern. And we can also see the details of the supposed dirt. Also, little details of the pods to see how they originally looked in their colors. And how these little covers looked, the original color of the model, and also this fundamental part, which is the antenna. We also see that there are no panel lines. The main body is quite smooth, and this would be the original lighting mechanism. It used little crystals to create the effect, and then there was a small motor. This was because everything was on one side. On the other side, you couldn't see any wires. And this is to show that the model is made of wood. Here we have a view of the restoration, which is almost finished, with the gray color and some weathering colors. And well, different views, and we see gray color and in some places a greenish gray. And above all, you don't see exaggerated panels. Instead, it looks pretty smooth, okay? So that the size of the model would look even bigger. You can see some small panels there, but in the final image, you can barely see them. Then these hooks here, I have to remove the outer steering wheel and try to see if they fit. Because if you try to test it without removing the steering wheel, honestly, it's a nightmare to fit the pieces, okay? We'll have to see. And of course, all of this needs to be painted before putting in the windows, right? Before installing all the windows that go inside the model, that's when you have to do the painting work. So, well, that's the question here. Do we remove the panels and redo them, which would be quite a lot of work? Pretty interesting and intense, actually. Or do we just leave it as a kind of poetic effect? The same thing happens here. With this section of the ship, these grooves are way too deep. They should be less pronounced. Of course, if they're less pronounced, maybe the effect won't be noticeable at this scale. But anyway, these are actually better than these ones, right? They're better. They're narrower, and these are much thicker. And honestly, I'm not convinced. Then there are some really interesting details, like this, which is really well done, right? They're really well done. And well, here too, the pods, right? They're really well done. But I repeat, the grooves here are better, but on the main part of the ship, they're just too deep, you know. So, I don't know, it makes me wonder if maybe we should just put in the work to sand all this down and make it less indented. Or just leave it as is. Well, that's something we need to consider. What else? Well, the pods are pretty small, right? So, the model doesn't come with any built-in lighting, and you have to add it yourself. You kind of have to figure things out and find some electronics kits. That could work for us. To create the optical effect for the pods. And also for the interior lighting. So here are the windows to glue on here, but in theory, it should be done with general lighting. I mean, maybe just putting in a couple of LEDs would work. The interesting thing would be if the different rooms, thank you, were separated with some kind of plastic or cardboard divider and had different light intensities, right? Different intensities, so they're not all the same or so it doesn't look like there's just one light illuminating everything inside, okay? I mean, to make sections. That's another interesting task that, well, would be nice to do. We don't have, it doesn't come with the docking port back here, okay? It comes closed. We're not going to make it open. We're going to keep it closed because we also don't have a shuttle to put there, so that's that. Other than that, the model is pretty good. It's quite accurate and it's pretty detailed. The only little issue is, I think it's too deeply indented and doesn't have much to do with the original model. As for the type of paint, well, here, if we leave these lines as they are, which depends on how the light hits them, of course, we're going to have to do a pretty detailed paint job because we'll need to use the airbrush to create the shadows, then apply a layer of green, then a layer of gray, then mask off some areas, some individual panels, and then apply another layer of gray, maybe a little lighter, a bit less dark. And well, we also have to consider whether to first give it a coat of silver to see what happens. Overall, the model is really good for the price, which is under 45 euros. But it does have this issue. It doesn't come with lights. It doesn't come with circuits. So if you want to light up the model from the inside, you have to figure it out yourself. And well, given the scale size, maybe this effect is a bit too intense, you know. Maybe from a distance it won't be so noticeable, and I'll have to do some tests. I'll do a paint test, and if it doesn't turn out well, then I'll use some body filler. I won't use the typical Tamiya putty. Instead, I'll use automotive body filler. And with a spatula, I'll apply it, sand everything down, and polish it. And then I'll make some finer panel lines, or at least I would. I'm not sure yet. It's something I need to think about, whether I'll do it or not. As for the lights, yes, I've already got that part somewhat figured out. I'll use some kits I found on AliExpress and adapt them. And mini LEDs. So they fit into these pods, okay? So, well, let's see how it goes. Thanks and greetings for watching the video. Don't forget to hit like, because that helps the channel grow and lets me keep making things like this. Cheers!